We now have pictures from Epstein's island house. If you remember, this was from his Manhattan townhome. It was a creepy statue.
Did anybody else notice in the newly released Jeffrey Epstein mansion photos that this is clearly a child-sized dental chair?
This being one of them. There are masks all over the wall. Now, what do you think that those could have been for? And they're all looking at that dentist chair, which is just...
So House Oversight Democrat decided to release a few pictures and videos of the Epstein empire on the island of St. James. And let's say a lot of people were like, this does not make sense at all. Like, what does this even prove? We don't even understand anything until when some Americans, quite a lot, a number of them decided to, play detective and, they're like, you know what? Actually, let's go deep on this. And let's say some of the pictures that we are going to be looking at, to be honest, they are creepy. But a lot of people could not figure out what is this all about, right? So I think we have quite a few explanations in here. If you haven't looked at these pictures and videos, well, brace yourself because you're about to look at them. And I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comment section. And if everything that is being discussed in here is the real thing, I feel like there's just way more than people expected about the Epstein and the whoever he was doing these operations with. But let's watch first. I'll be back with more. Just let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share.
Breaking news now. The House Oversight Committee just released new photos and a video concerning the Epstein files. These images show Epstein's house in the Virgin Islands. They were provided to the Oversight Committee by the Virgin Islands Department of Justice. Let's get right to MS Now Congressional reporter Michael Schnell.
Yeah, Anna, as you mentioned, this is a group of 14 photos and videos documenting different parts of what is said to be the Epstein estate on the Virgin Islands, on Epstein Island. There are some images of bedrooms. We see beds, we see some bathrooms, a bathtub, a sink in one case. There are some images of outside, some scene images, and in one there is a sign that says no trespassing. You can see some of these images on the screen right now. I want to make very clear, Anna, this comes from a November 18th letter that Democrats, led by Congressman Robert Garcia, Democrats on the Oversight Committee, sent to the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands, requesting a bounty of information, documents, information from investigations, what have you, that the Virgin Islands may have had in its possession that has to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it's an important distinction because this is not in response to that bill that Congress passed last month to compel the DOJ to release the Epstein files. This has to do with that November 18th letter from the U.S. Virgin Islands. So again, here's a video of outside. You're seeing parts of these 14 images and documents. I'll read to you a little bit of what Robert Garcia said in his statement accompanying the release of this information. He said, quote, "These new images are a disturbing look into the world of Jeffrey Epstein and his island. We are releasing these photos and videos to ensure public transparency in our investigation and to help piece together a full picture of Epstein's horrific crimes. We won't stop fighting until we deliver justice for the survivors." And he finishes by saying it's time for President Trump to release all the files now. So again, this is just the latest drop of information and files from the Oversight Committee that has come since that the focus has been so intently on the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and the documents and information surrounding him.
Did anybody else notice in the newly released Jeffrey Epstein mansion photos that this is clearly a child-sized dental chair? But also, look at all the heads that are on the walls of this specific room, right? Look at the noses in particular. I wonder if anybody were to analyze any of these faces, if they would match anybody on a specific database. Because then you have this photo that was also released, right? Look at these names right here, but 1, 2, 3, 4 are blacked out. Why? If you zoom in just a little bit closer, these two specifically can perfectly fit a very specific last name. I mean, look at the name Larry, right? You got 5 letters, right? I'm pretty sure it's not that difficult to do some simple math here. But then how many names do you have on this phone right here, right? How many faces do you have in this room? Did anybody notice that? Which leads me to an insane theory that I feel like a lot of other people would probably agree with. What if somebody, right, wasn't actually that somebody. You feel me? Call me crazy if you want, but considering everything that has happened in this year already, I'm starting to think outside the box every single time.
Well. So the things we're going to talk about in this video are going to make you uncomfortable. But I'm going to try to say them in a way that doesn't really make you super uncomfortable today, okay? I went back and looked at the dentistry chair photo again, and under further investigation of said photo, something occurred to me. You see, I've been back and forth to the dentist quite a bit as of late, so I could tell you everything that should be in a dentistry office, dear. And there's some things missing in that room that lead me to believe that it was not used in any way for dentistry, okay? I mean, there's things missing that they would need in order to work on some teeth. So I don't think Jeffrey was getting his mouth done on the island, hun. And something else that I remembered about another property that belonged to him, I believe in New Mexico, his ranch. Yeah, maybe you've heard about Jeffrey's ranch, dear. Well, there's a main house on his ranch, but then there's other little cottages on his ranch. Now, these cottages aren't all the same. They all have themes. They're each different. There's different layouts and different decorations. One of the cottages has like a Snow White theme, and one of them has like a Sleeping Beauty theme, and one of them has like a Cinderella theme. As a matter of fact, I can't remember who it was to, but there was an email between the island dude and another guy. I'll have to go back and see who it was from, but it was about that guy going to visit Jeffrey's ranch. And they were talking back and forth to each other about whether or not they were going to do Snow White or Sleeping Beauty and which room he was going to stay in. These rooms were specially decorated for very specific fetish play. Yes, baby. Yes. Now, do y'all remember that email I shared with you when they dropped those just a few weeks ago? The very first email that I found in the batch, because I decided not to start at the beginning, but I just picked randomly in the middle. Y'all remember that? And I had found an email. Hold on just a minute. Somebody's trying to beep in and it's going to cut out my phone. Okay, I'm back. Now, we was talking about the emails that I'd went through. Now, the first couple of emails that I went through, the first one was about Daddy's health, and the second one was about fetish play. If you'll remember, Jeffrey and this other individual were texting back and forth to one another, and Jeffrey responded with, Madonna is on the way. Do you still want to do torture photos, or can we try something with me in them? And 3, should the presentation be Trumpville? So it was very clear that they were talking about some kind of weird fetish play. Now, the dentist chair today, the little cottages on his ranch, baby. I mean, it's clear to see that nothing about those files are a hoax in any kind of way, and there are other people involved, dear. I mean, it's quite clear. We ain't just got to talk about Daddy here. There's a lot of people involved in this, and they should go down for it, honey, because it's not a hoax, and it damn sure ain't no joke. I don't even want my mind to ponder what went on in that dentist room, knowing what I know, baby. Knowing what I know about torture photos, Madonnas meaning virgins, cottage rooms, the Snow White treatment, the Sleeping Beauty treatment, dear. What the fuck, honey? I gotta get back to viewing these. I'll be back with some more tea either today or tomorrow. I don't know how I'm gonna be after I keep going through these photos. Shit.
But why is it extremely sterile and extremely creepy? The new photos of Jeffrey Epstein's island, the inside of what was going on Little St. Jeff, the photos, you can see a level of sterility that as a nursing student, I only see in hospitals. And for them to have a dentist chair, the demonic nature and the psychology behind what they were doing is so clear to me, and I don't see anyone talking about it. Right off the back, I looked at this and I saw nothing but American Horror Story. And if you've ever seen the episode with the dentist and how they expanded on the Black Dahlia, I want you to know you are thinking correctly. So for this environment to have an extremely sterile dental chair, as well as these masks on the wall, please follow me on the psychology behind this. I want you to take a look at this photo just for a minute and think about any dentist office you've ever been in. I want you to look at how incredibly, just how the picture makes you feel. My discernment operates on vision, and I see things from a perspective that the Lord has literally given me the intuition to visibly see the fucking demonic ass psychological terror these women were put through, as well as individuals who were gagged not to speak. Nitric oxide. The first instance in instinct in my body when I saw that photo was nitric oxide or laughing gas. And if you know anything about nitric oxide and the history of it, there was a lot of people, there was a dentist particularly in New York in 2000 through 2004 that would knock his patients out with laughing gas, nitric oxide, because it makes you loopy and enough of it puts you out. And he would sexually assault his patients while they were out, and when they would wake up, they wouldn't remember anything. And this was a standard practice for a lot of dentist office. This is why they don't use laughing gas anymore. And another thing about nitric oxide laughing gas is that when they knock you out and you're laughing uncontrollably to the point where you're loopy, your memory is distorted. And that is why you see masks on the fall, because you wouldn't know who was taking turns on top of you while you were being essayed by laughing gas. And I mind you, one of those masks looks like Dr. Phil. That's where the essay started, in that fucking dentist chair. It started as a game, a charade, let's play, and before you know it, those young ladies had a mask on their face, a nasal cannula in their nose, and they were being hit with nitric oxide to the point where they were so fucking loopy. There were 12 people standing over them with those masks on, and they didn't know what the fuck was happening to them. They were passed out, and they would wake up in one of those fucking beds. And this is what would happen. They would pull teeth out of people. I'm letting you know. And Jeffrey Epstein was so obsessed with that Neuralink genetically modified bullshit that there was more going on. And I'm going to have to do a part 2, but I'm letting you know whatever happened in there, I can physically fuck see it.
We now have pictures from Epstein's island house. If you remember, this was from his Manhattan townhome. It was a creepy statue of a girl. Well, there's some not so off pictures from this Epstein Island estate. Here's another one of a pool area back there. Here's one of a study with a chalkboard until you get a little bit closer. And then if you look at what is written on this chalkboard, and I'm not sure what is blacked out, some of the things say power, deception, music. What is all that about? But then it gets worse. So he's got this room with a dentist chair in it. And inside this room are all these weird masks on the wall of men's faces. As you know, this is one of the places that was notorious from where he shuttled young girls to come and basically be sex slaves for all kinds of men. Can you imagine, like, what in the world are they doing in this dentist chair? What and why? And what is this? And you just had a dentist on hand? What?
Epstein's home photos released less than 24 hours ago. Were these masks being worn in this room? What is this kink room? Are these masks of men who were in this room? Because it's beyond creepy. It's giving eyes wide shut, if you ask me. Who do we think this is? Who do we think these masks represent? Why did Epstein have this room? There is even a little washroom to wash your hands? Are these the faces of the unclean hands? Because a normal dentist, if there was one, would not have these masks on the wall. Can't help but think of certain people when I look at these masks. Don't they look like certain people to you? Because I woke up and saw these and I'm beyond shooketh. This is the one that, the mustache, you know who you think it is. And there were actually other photos that I cannot share because they are beyond disturbing. And Epstein had all these phones in a bunch of the rooms, a bunch of the bedrooms. Why? Who was he calling? And if you zoom in, there's actual names of people that are redacted. Who are those people? What exactly was this room used for? May God be with these souls who were in this room.
There were a lot of creepy pictures that were released today from Jeffrey Epstein's island and just creepy photographs. So this is his home, and these are some of the photographs. Now, this is one room right here that looks like a dentist's office, except if my dentist had these creepy masks on the wall, I think that I'd be like, hey, yeah, this was great. I don't think I'd be getting services from you today. So these are all the masks that are in the creepy dentist room. Were there some other nefarious things going on in this room? I mean, look at these bathrooms. Oh my gosh, this is creepy and antiseptic. I mean, just from looking here, and maybe because the lights are not on, but it feels very sort of hospital. These creepy images, these were released by House Democrats. There's photos and videos from Jeffrey Epstein's private Caribbean is the correct pronunciation, the island on Wednesday, offering a rare glimpse into a secretive place where Epstein is alleged to have trafficked young girls.
You're looking at never-before-seen video from the U.S. government of Jeffrey Epstein's private luxury compound in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, I'm going to speed past some of this. This is the walkway from the water up through these stairs, and then at the top of the stairs, you'll see the compound. You can see multiple buildings with lots of white doors with these locks on it. We believe that's the main house with the blue roof. And then you walk over into the pool deck area and this large pool. I'm speeding up to show you what's at the end of the pool just because the U.S. government has two different videos of this particular statue. And then you move into this video of a bedroom. It's unclear where exactly this bedroom is in the compound. Walking into the bathroom, which also looks pretty generic. And then at the end, it'll give you a picture of what's in this medicine cabinet. Also pretty generic, but just wait because there's something super weird coming. These never-before-seen videos and several photos that have not been seen before, which I'm also going to show you in a second, of Epstein's island compound were released just a short time ago from the Democrats who sit on the House Oversight Committee. The Democrats say they got a hold of these images as a result of a November 18th request that they sent to the U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General for production of documents, communications, and information pertaining to the investigation or potential criminal investigations of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, we know this island and that luxury home were known to be sort of the epicenter of Epstein's trafficking ring. We know that young girls were taken to this island, and some of the survivors of Epstein talk about the horrors they endured in that pool, in that house, and in the surrounding buildings. Now, let's get into the super strange things that are in that house. Let's start with this. That appears to be like a dentist's chair inside Epstein's house. Now, Epstein was not a dentist. It's unclear why this chair is in his house. And also in this room are these very strange masks hanging on the wall, and there are two on this countertop. Let me zoom in so you can see them. Here's a closer look at these masks. Now, these are not like decorative, fancy, like Venetian masks. These are masks of men's faces, and they're pretty specific men's faces. Now, who these men are and why their faces are in mask form hanging on the wall is completely unclear. And then there's this room that either looks like an office or maybe a library or some kind of living room. You can see a desk there, 4 chairs, all these bookshelves. And then right there is where you would expect maybe like a TV, but instead that is a huge chalkboard and there are words written on it. Strange words. Here, let me zoom in. So here's a closer picture of it. You can see the words power, deception, truth. Up at the very top, it says plants. It says mirror in face here. It says music, time, and I think it says day there. It's unclear who wrote these words. We don't know whose handwriting this is, but you can also see these black bars on the picture. Now, those are redactions from the House Oversight Committee, and usually redactions mean identifying information about victims. Lastly, there's this image of a telephone inside Epstein's home with several pre-programmed numbers listed. Here, let me zoom in so you can read them. Very top, NY office. probably his own New York office. Then Darren office and cell, Rich's office, Mike's cell, Patrick's cell, Larry's cell, the kitchen. And then again, there are some redactions which we assume include identifying information about victims. Now, it's important to understand this is not part of the so-called Epstein files. This release today is completely separate from that. Now, some of this information may be included in what we know as the Epstein files, but these images and videos were produced based on a separate request from the Oversight Committee. Now, speaking of the actual release of the Epstein files, as you know, President Trump signed that bill into law that requires the entire Epstein file, minus the names of the victims, of course, to be released to the public by the Department of Justice. By law, that must be done no later than December 19th. That's just a little more than 2 weeks away. So we are waiting on that. As soon as it comes out, I will let you know. And if you want to take a look at some of these photos and videos and some of the other things that were released for yourself, I'm going to email the documents out to you tonight in my Facts HQ email, so make sure you sign yourself up.
The House Democrats have released the videos and the footage from Epstein Island. And the news has been pointing out different things about the island. They're saying, like, look at how the structure is set up and everything. What stands out to me are two things. Well, two things so far, because I'm sure they're going to slowly trickle all the information out because it's salacious, right? One, yes, it does make sense for you to have a personal private chef and a personal trainer, personal barber, hairstylist, what have you, when you're dealing with what kind of money he had and he was dealing with. The dentist chair, the dentist office, though, just gave me the Triple X parody vibes, okay? It gave me very much, you wanted to create a scenario. You had the funds to do so. And so real dentistry isn't happening in that chair. Two, why do you have a sculpture of an African man? I don't know. I just am assuming by the face in the sculpture, right? Chucking a spear. How, it's just like Men in Black, the first Men in Black, where Tommy Lee Jones's character asks Will, why did he pop the little girl? He didn't pop none of the aliens or anything like that. And Will is like, I popped the little girl because she literally has calculus and trigonometry books in the middle of the hood, in the middle of the night. Of course. That's the one right there. That's the alien, okay? So for me, I'm just imagining how many millionaires, billionaires, capitals of industry were having mixers around this sculpture and it being a talking point of racism, okay? It being them making the most vile, disgusting comments while staring at this sculpture and realizing or thinking that it is a safe space because of all the debauchery that was going on. That's what stands out to me, is that sculpture. Because his primary target audience was people that did not look like that, none whatsoever. The complete polar opposite. And yet you have that sculpture right in front of your pool, which is a centerpiece for parties, right? I couldn't imagine. And these are the same people that will get in front of the camera and speak to the public about our special needs, our special interests. But I guarantee you, those were the same mofos standing in front of that sculpture and saying the most vile, egregious, preposterous things. But let me know what you guys think. Have you seen this footage? Like, share, comment. Let me know. That stood out to me. Okay. All right. Bye.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the things that we have just heard in here, knowing very well that a lot of these Americans, the people that have explained and given their opinions, trying to, interpret picture by picture, video by video, right? I know that a lot of them were also holding back, but at the same time, I know that they don't get the full picture either. This is just them trying to connect dots because, like I said when I was beginning this whole thing, that quite a number of people actually were like, what does this even prove? Because it's just quite hard to wrap your head around it. You cannot make sense of it at all. Yeah, when you look at the board and the things that were written on there, the sculptures and everything that we are looking at, the masks, and it takes quite some time for you to sit down and reflect and be like, what could this have meant? Because at this point, that is where people are at. They are trying to, figure out and connect dots. I can't wait for these files to be released, because apparently I think they're supposed to be released on the 19th of this very month. Hopefully, these people are going to release the files, and hopefully, because I just have a feeling that whatever these people were up to is nothing any normal, I'm talking about normal, uncorrupted minds could handle. Because hearing half, or not even half, or just a quarter of the things that are being explained in here, I can't take it, because I'm like, I know that evil indeed exists out here, but some of these things, the fetishes, those masks, if you were to ask yourself, what was the significance of that? Because I feel like everything that was in there had a significance. These things were designed intently. They were intentional in creating any of these things. And then the sculptures of black women, and then a black man, and all of that, I just don't, it doesn't make sense. You can scratch your head until when you're like, I don't know. But if at all, this is just a glimpse of some of the things that were going on, you can only imagine if everything has to be revealed and people get to know. Also, mind you, that probably you'll have to get to see people that you didn't know partook in this, and they are still alive. And I think for me, that is where it makes all sense that they have been trying their level best to withhold this case, disrupt it, prevent these things from coming out to the public, because these are powerful people, the same powerful people that own corporations and all of that. And this would mean their downfall, just in case Americans get to know, and not just Americans, but the world. Here, we have a saying, when there's a powerful person, right, that thinks they will never go down, okay? We have a saying and say, Bali bamanyi ngense batya, that they were so powerful and the world was afraid of them. Now look at them. That's what I am getting out of all of this, that even with the efforts to try to suppress this, because I feel like pictures alone cannot, this is like, I feel like at the same time they are still also holding quite a lot of stuff, because again, I feel like there's something that is holding them. Okay? But just know, I don't know. I just don't know. But those are creepy. Imagine, in that dentistry room with those whatever's on the walls. Sometimes, again, I think we have a saying over here that Omgaga Simon, to that a rich man is not human. He's not human, or they are not humans. Because at some point you start to think, are they crazy? The things they do, the obsessions and fetishes and all of these things, are they human? Do they live in the same reality that we live in? With all that, I think at the end of the day, these pictures, as much as people are trying to connect the dots, but that's what people have to say, right? There's still an explanation that is needed, especially from the House oversight, because you can't just release pictures. And what are you trying to communicate? You just want people to connect dots? Because this does not say anything. I feel like, come out and say, I understand that they are talking about this is one of the islands where most of the evils were committed, but follow this up with quite an explanation, so that you don't leave people to be the detectives and try to connect the dots for themselves. say something about it. Because again, this case has gained, global attention. So everybody is interested in knowing what exactly happened. So don't just release and just let the people to do the work for themselves. No. Most of these people that are releasing these things, they know the truth. The people might quite think and put dots together here and there according to some, common sense and intelligence that is endowed to everybody, but they can't really, bring out the full picture. Bring out the full picture of what these people did, that just in case they get judged, the world will get to know they deserved it, or even they deserved way more worse than what they are getting. But anywho, those are the creepy whatevers, unhinged stuff that are in there in the pictures and the videos. I just want you guys to let me know what you think about this. Like, when you look at this, do you think this is creepy or what? Or just people are trying to, make up stuff, because anywho, I'll see you guys later. I love you. May God watch over you and protect you and your loved ones. Till then, my name is Gracie. Bye, all.